It is when the stems are so close together, you can't actually get the loppers between them to do it for that, so you have to resort to... My name's Ian Hounsell. I'm the secretary of the Friends of Duncliffe Wood, Fivehead Wood and Kingsettle Wood, which belong to the Woodland Trust in North Dorset. And our function is to assist the Woodland Trust with the management of the woods. We do the light labour, like clearing rides, coppicing, and generally keeping the place looking good. At the moment we're standing in Fivehead Wood, which is just close to Fivehead Magdalen village in North Dorset, between Shaftesbury and Sherborne.
My name's Tony Copper. I am the warden for the Woodland Trust of this wood. It's about a 50-acre wood, mainly broadleaf. I think there's 2 conifers in there, a couple of pines. There used to be a few more. The birds enjoy nesting, and there are a certain number of mammals. I doubt if we'll see any this morning. It's a bright and sunny day, but obviously they'll be keeping quiet until it starts to get dusk, and then they may come out. But perhaps we'll see some birds on the way through in the treetops. It's rather muddy, so if we watch our feet, the leaves are coming off the trees now. In fact, it's a lovely morning looking through the sun at the changing the beech leaves. Beautiful bronze colour, and the oaks going rather a darker colour. About 12 years ago I was approached by Woodland Trust and asked if I'd like to take on the warden of this wood, in particular Fivehead Wood. You get involved in raising a 5-year maintenance plan, and once that's agreed then you review it with Woodland Trust and you try to, along with working parties, to adhere to that maintenance scheme. Right, well, we've had a look round the bottom of the wood. We'll go back up and find the group. We should be able to hear them as we get closer. Yes, as you haven't been here before, Richard, I'll just give you a quick run around what we're doing.
Yep.
This little glade that we're cutting out, this is nearly all, as you can see, an understory of hazel. This is some willow here.
Yep.
And we've got overstory and standards of willow, ash and oak. Now, we don't touch the big trees, but we do touch the little ones. And this is a compartment which is more or less all the same. We've worked down it over several years, and now we've flipped back to the start and we're doing rotational coppicing on the hazel, which means really we're cutting the stems right off at the bottom.
Hazel seems to coppice naturally anyway. Even if it doesn't seem to grow as a single stem. If you find old hazel with a big stem, you almost invariably find a whole load of little stems around it. The traditional tool for coppicing, or tools I should say, would be a small axe or hatchet and a bill hook. This is an old hook. It's probably early 20th century or even late 19th. The old coppicers would have used that pretty well exclusively, together with a small axe. That's a fairly light woodman's axe. It's not a felling axe for big trees. It's not big enough and heavy enough. These are ordinary sort of garden loppers, which I dare say the old boys would have loved to have had years ago. So that's really the 3 basic tools, plus the small bow saw. It is when the stems are so close together, you can't actually get the loppers between them to do it for that, so you have to resort to...
Try and cut on the upswing. Right. Try and slice through like that.
So I'm taking hazels right down to what they call the stool, very close to the ground. So it will regrow for people to do the same again in 8 to 10 years' time. I've always had an interest in woodlands, and I've always had an interest in how they kind of regenerate. And I sometimes think we can get a bit too precious about trees. Trees have their place, and old trees are absolutely wonderful, but you've got to look after them, and you've got to care for them so they can be there for future generations. And coppicing is part of that cycle. I'm Richard Bradford. I live up near Glastonbury in Somerset. I've got a partner down here in Stourbridge, so I've come over here for the day. I'm mainly desk-bound during the week. Got a great interest in conservation, worked in conservation most of my working life. And as I work kind of part-time now, I'd be quite interested in working in woods and hedgerows in the future. So what I need to do is to have a look at the pole. Is it reasonably straight? Well, the answer's no, but it's easier to handle in two bits rather than in one bit. So I'll take off that and put it in that pile of potential kindling if anyone has the interest in it. Find another pole that's a bit stouter, and that will do for the edge of the fence. That will do for one of the uprights of the fence. So I'll cut that off about 6 foot long. Minding my hands in the process. And put that in the useful pile over there. That's part of the story of the woodland, is that they used to support, several livelihoods in the past, and there's no reason why that shouldn't be the case in the future. They will probably be different livelihoods, but a working woodland is a woodland that stays. And people like the Dorset Coppice Group and the Dorset Woodlinks are actually very good at beginning to promote it and get that interest out there. But at the end of the day, you need people who are actually willing to do that work, either as a livelihood or in a voluntary capacity.
In the old days, before until the early 20th century, they were managed like this because the small wood particularly was so useful. And the traditional way was to grow mainly oak trees with an understory of hazel coppice, and it was called coppice with standards, and that was a way that was done way back in medieval times all over the country, when woodland was actually a very valuable resource. Nowadays, of course, it's mainly for amenity purposes, although there is charcoal industries, there are coppice groups in Dorset, and hurdle making, and there are more uses now probably than there have been for 50 or 100 years.
My renewed interest in woodlands and trees comes from a look towards the future. And I think wood fuel is going to be one of the future things we actually got to get our heads around. Oil and gas aren't going to last forever. And I think we've got to get our woodlands into some kind of order that we can have wood fuel in the future. And this is all part of that. And, that could take 5, 10, 20 years to get going. So why not make a start now?